Hey, sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to another B-Ball Breakdown live post-game show. We just had the Game 3 between the Jazz and the Clippers. Congratulations to the Clippers. I'm glad that they could kind of get back in this series because it didn't look so good for them after the first two games. I got a lot of notes I took while watching the game, and I have some interesting hot takes that might be interesting of you as well. Unfortunately, I can't get the hot mic thing to work, so I can't get people to call in, which was an awesome extra layer of interaction, so I'll have to rely on the comments. And also, don't forget, if you want to get my attention right away and get your question answered right away, obviously the super chat's the way to go. And usually those get backed up in a way that those are the only ones I'm going to be able to get to. So I'll keep my eye on that. But thank everybody for being here. What is up, everybody? So we had a scare there as well. And let's just make it clear, if Donovan Mitchell is hurt, then the Jazz are going to lose the series, and they might not win another game. He's that good, is what I'm saying, for them. And he was awesome tonight. I thought he probably was more impressive than even what you saw from Kawhi and Paul George. The offense for the Jazz was interesting. So they ended up shooting 43% from three, which, all right, it was a confusing game for me overall. It really was confusing. Now, let's see here. Compared to the Clippers, who actually shot 52.8% from three. So they were even hotter. They nailed 19 threes to 19 threes for the Jazz. So they were actually even in the turnover department. The Jazz turned it over 13 times compared to the 9 times for the Clippers. So that wasn't quite it. I think what we're looking at here is the 2-point percentage is really what ends up dooming the Jazz. They shot 42.9% from the field overall, which is about the same as they shot from three. So clearly they shot from 2 point less than 43%, which is not going to get it done, especially when you look at the Clippers, who ended up shooting 56% from the field overall, up from 52.8. So they shot 55 to 56% from the in the lane, which is what they were doing against the Mavericks and what doomed the Mavericks from winning that series as well. So that's a lot of that kind of stuff going on there with the shooting and the stats and kind of pulling some of these things apart. Let me see if I can't. Okay, it's not quite up yet with the stats on NBA, so we can't do the sliders yet for the first quarter, second quarter, and the halves. But once that comes live, we'll be able to break it down a little bit more in terms of runs. But I figured I can go through some of my notes and discuss that. We can grab some comments as we see them come through on the chat. Let me do the viewer activity too. Oh, well, there you go. We start off the super chats. Awesome from Michael Buono. Thank you so much. Would you rather have Russell Westbrook or Paul George on your team? Kawhi is amazing, but I just don't feel like PG is as good as advertised. Well, if you know me and you know my past criticisms of Russell Westbrook, I would take Paul George in a heartbeat for a lot of reasons. One, Paul George can shoot a lot better than Russell Westbrook, and he can handle the ball as well, and he can run pick and roll, really well. And then Paul George defensively hasn't been as good as he's been in the years past, but he's still a lot better than Russ. Sorry to tell you that, but that's how that would be, especially if you're talking about playing with the Clippers here. But the Clippers, the game plan was really, really just kind of confounding to me, because if you were to compare the shot quality between the two teams, I would say the Jazz had significantly more quality shots. Really good shots they just didn't seem to hit, which is why it was shocking to me that they ended up shooting 42% from or 43% from the three-point line, because it felt like they weren't hitting as many as they normally would. But that's definitely even above what their high normally would be for the regular season too. So maybe they made a few towards the end. I was kind of like the last 5 minutes distracted just by getting prepared for the show. So maybe they hit a few there and got hot at the end there when it didn't necessarily matter. But if we go by a quarter-by-quarter breakdown of this game, let's see here. Where is the summary? What we find is the Clippers took a 27-23 lead after one. Then they went on a big run in the second quarter, and now outscored them by 11 to take a big halftime lead. And then the Jazz were able to cut 4 points off of that in the third quarter, which was the big moment where they needed to be able to do more than that. So it was a really confounding game because, again, to me, it felt like the Jazz were generating great shots, and I was really concerned about how they were defending Donovan Mitchell. It didn't seem like that was going to work. Hey, we got another super chat. Thank you so much. And this is from England, Jolly England. Thank you so much. Or somewhere where they use the pound sign. The real Giannis. All right, I'm a Bucks fan and I like our team, but there is no way we get past the Nets. What do we do to get us a ring? Change Mike B or yeah? Well, I think it's pretty clear that they're going to get rid of Mike Budenholzer if they lose this series. I also think it's kind of clear to me that they're going to lose the series. So that will do some things. I've always talked since Budenholzer got there about their defense and how it was always frustrating to me to see them give up so many wide open threes. And it's almost by design because they're so concerned with dropping and stopping shots at the rim that they will end up helping like one pass away to prevent those shots near the basket, the kickouts go for threes. And they were able to get away with it. And I say get away with it because in the modern NBA, you shouldn't be able to be among the top leaders in giving up wide open three-point shots and then be a good defensive team. It just shouldn't be that way. But for 2 of those 3 years, I believe he's been there for this is his 3rd year, Budenholzer, they were like the #1 defense. And so I was left scratching my head every time looking at this and going through the footage and realizing how easy those shots were. There was some notion that they were giving open shots to like specific shooters that probably weren't very good, and that's why they were missing. Oh, parenthetically, the percentage on those wide open three-point shots was so much lower than you'd expect. So there had to be something going on there. Well, the last year and a half, it's kind of come back to bite them, where that percentage has crept up now, and maybe teams has finally got used to it or something. So suddenly they were now not only giving up the most or almost the most three-point shots that were open, but the percentage on those shots were way up to the top as well. And as a result, their defensive rating was as low as it's been in a long time. And that's what we're seeing again with the Nets, the same kind of issues there. And so when the Nets can outscore them from the three-point line by 5, 6, 7, then it won't matter if the Bucks are going to get offensive rebounds, right? Because that's what they have a good advantage of too. Now, the whole thing with Giannis is troubling. I've been saying that I think they need a #1. He's not really a #1 in a playoff situation deep into the playoffs. He's relegated to watch how he plays. Like I went through the footage, the last breakdown I did on the Bucks. He just sets screens. He kind of flashes to the high post a little bit. Maybe hangs out the dunker spot. Sometimes he isos, and Blake is giving him 10 feet of room, so he can kind of like dribble, and try maybe do a post up or shoot a 3. But these are not the kind of style of offense you'd expect from an MVP, or much less a multiple MVP. And because he's so limited from shooting anywhere outside of 8 feet, that it's a problem when you get a guy like Blake Griffin who has resurrected his career practically by being able to, Giannis wants to lower his head and just crash into guys, knock them back, and he can dunk and finger roll right at the rim. But Blake is strong enough to hold that off and also smart enough to understand angles and cut them off. And so, I don't think that Giannis is going to get any better, and he probably doesn't necessarily feel like he has to, right? He scores 28 a game and gets all the 12 rebounds and whatever assists. So it's like, he might not feel like he has to get better, but in my mind, if he doesn't improve the shooting, then that's going to be a problem if he wants to play the role he's playing, or just be relegated to what he's doing, setting ball screens, setting pin downs, rolling, And by the way, that might be the best version of him. That might unlock some more things if he does it more. I had mentioned the other night, last night, watching the Sixers game, that the way Ben Simmons was attacking, I thought was a great way that Giannis could also do that. And what made me think of it was when I saw Ben Simmons, like they swung the ball to him on the right wing, and he instantly on the catch, just attacked on the catch, went right to the basket and laid it in before they could do anything. And I'm thinking, well, that's exactly what Giannis can do because they don't want him, they want him to shoot the 3. They'll give him some space. He can get going quickly. But it might not work as well because I don't even think Ben Simmons is seeing the kind of sag that Giannis is. I mean, that's how far Blake Griffin is off of him. So there was another thing that I'm forgetting. I'll think about it in a second that Ben Simmons is doing. I'm like, oh, you know what? It probably was posting up. And he was posting up on that left block, and he skipped it to the right corner for a beautiful 3. Like, those are the kind of things that, you should see Giannis doing more. But as a result, the James Harden trade, to me, I don't think that the Bucks could have done it, but that's the guy they should have traded everybody for. And had Harden and Giannis and figure it out, because that would be the best way to do it. All right, wow, more super chats. Thank you guys so much. FC4642, thank you. I guess I got a couple in there, but here's the question you got. So thank you. Why do you think Snyder hasn't made a sustainable game plan against the Clips 3-2 zone? Is he trusting that his shooters will get hot? I got to tell you, I think that they fooled Doris and Mark. I don't think that was a zone. I know they mentioned zone on at least 1 or 2 possessions, and that was man. It was just that the Jazz offense just went 5 out and wasn't really moving much. But I saw somebody come so far out of the lane in that configuration that to me it indicated that it wasn't the zone. I'll go study it again, but here's the thing: they shot 42%, 43% from the 3-point line. That's what else would you need a game plan for, right? That's all you want to do. Maybe you want to shoot some more, but let's see. They ended up shooting. Let me go to the box score again. The Jazz not only shot 43%, but they took the 44 of them. I mean, they took plenty of threes, so that's not the issue, and that's why it was so confounding. Because again, pound for pound, when you compare shot to shot, the Jazz got a lot of great shots at the rim, wide open threes. Meanwhile, the Clippers were like hitting really tough ISOs and mid-range 18, 19 footers with a hand up in their face. I don't know if that's sustainable. I mean, Paul George hits that right corner three over who was guarding him? Somebody want to tell me in the right corner. Oh, it was Bogdanovich, and just held the ball for 5 seconds and then rose up after a couple jab steps and just nails it in his face. It was in his teeth. It wasn't even like in his face. So I don't know. I think that Quinn Snyder might just had to tip his cap and say this is the one they're going to get. They came out on fire. It came out like with a lot of energy. I will say that it certainly looked to me like Kawhi was really dragging in Game 1 and certainly in Game 2 as well. He looked a lot better, and I think particularly in the second half. The first half, he looked almost the same kind of mortal Kawhi Leonard, and that was a troubling sign. Even though in the first half they were still holding that lead pretty nicely throughout the whole thing. If we look at the it's not up yet, I'm sure, but if Popcorn Machine Net puts up their game flow, we're going to see actually there's game flow on the here, I think, on the oh, it's not up yet. Let me refresh. The stats on NBA.com has the game flow as well, I believe. Let me check game charts. Is that where it is? Aha, here it is. Yeah, once you look at this, you'll see that the Clippers had control from midway through the first quarter all the way through the rest of the game. And it was over by kind of halftime. There really wasn't a run to be had. So, it was confounding. I'm going to go through some more notes because, again, it really felt like the Jazz were playing well. We have another super chat. Oh my goodness! Thank you to Jake Wellard. Are the Suns now the favorites to get out of the West? I think so. I like the way the Suns are playing, and you might, if you're on Twitter following me, which reminds me, I have to share this on Twitter. Let's do that. Hey everybody, while you're out there, if you have that button to share on Twitter, why don't you tell everybody about it? Let's bring everybody else in and have a big conversation. What do you say? Or share it, whatever wherever we are on whatever platform you like. But anyway, the key here is, what was I saying? Oh, the Suns. So I had tweeted out after Game 3 of the Lakers-Suns series where the Lakers kind of handled them, and it just made me wonder how they got the second seed. This is not the kind of play of a second seed team. You wouldn't normally see that. Now, I had conceded that Chris Paul was banged up at that point, but he wasn't like 5% of himself. He was like 65, 70% of himself. But I didn't see any kind of adjustments. I didn't see the kind of smart play that you would assume from a second, seeded team. Now they were also, very little experience, and that must have been part of it as well. Game 4, I saw more of the same. I thought the Lakers had control of the game until AD goes down, and once they went down, great. Then the Suns just completely took over, which is what would be expected, and they play a lot better. But now, through that experience and into this next series, they've gotten that experience they probably didn't have as much of, aside from Chris Paul, and they're believing. You can see that. I remember way back in the day when the Bulls broke through and they beat the Knicks in some first round series maybe. I know what it was. I think it was when Michael Jordan hits the shot number 1 against Cleveland, and that was their breakthrough moment. And then they go on and they beat the Knicks in the second round, which wasn't really going to be expected either. It just gave them that kind of momentum and energy and experience they needed. And I feel like it's the same thing with the Suns right here. So I really like the way they're playing. I mean, listen, DeAndre Ayton, compared to what he did on defense in his rookie year, it's so night and day. It's amazing how much better he is. He is causing Jokic to be suboptimal. That's all there is to it. Now, on the other side with the Nuggets, what we're not seeing, and it's very strange, is we're not seeing Jokic bring the ball up. That's what he would do all the time, be the point center, bring the ball up, initiate the offense that way. He's not doing that. And especially when there's no Jamal Murray, why wouldn't he? It's all very strange to me. He doesn't get a lot of high post touches either. And I guess the argument would be it's because of Ayton, the way he can guard him, he can move. I don't know. But like, this is your bread and butter. This is what you guys do. This is what made your offense so exciting and so good. Even without Jamal Murray, they still played well after he went down. But they're not doing it. And, this happens. I see teams do this every season where they build up a body of work of things that are successful, and then you don't see it so much in the playoffs. It's confounding to me. As if, like, maybe they just scrap whole parts of their offense that they were building up just because they feel like it's not, doesn't work because of the matchups. But you got to at least find out. You got to try it at least. I don't know. It's a little bit concerning to me. So that's my little Suns spiel. But yeah, I feel like they could beat the Jazz without question. I mean, the Jazz are not world beaters, right? They're a good team. The Clippers are a good team. This is a pretty well-matched series. This probably ends up going 7 games, right? I mean, obviously, if the Jazz come back, and I have a feeling like if the Jazz ran back what they did in Game 4, I mean, I can't tell you they're going to make more threes. So I don't know. I guess the key here would be that they have to make more shots at the rim than they were taking. I thought they were getting an abundance of them. So let's go through some of the notes I had here. I'll just go in order. We'll kind of go through the game through my eyes, and we'll see. And yeah, don't forget, if you want your comments to get up to the top and me to respond to them, the super chat's the best way to do it. We'll see. I'll probably be able to grab a few random ones here from the comments. So many great comments in here. Like, Coach, Jokic had a 30 and 20 triple-double. How did they neutralize him? Right. Let me tell you, that was the quietest 30-20 triple-double I've ever seen. It really was. I was like, after the game, I was like, oh, like, okay, he got a bunch of those offensive rebounds and he got some assists from those. And so that's one way he was kind of doing it. But, like, it just wasn't even it wasn't that impactful. It was weird, right? And if I go to that one, let me just check, because I remember, let's see, the last, here it is, the last game flow from the Suns game. Look at the game flow. The Suns had control the entire game all the way through. I mean, they went on a 12-3 run to begin the third quarter, which gave them a 13-point lead, and like it never really closed much beyond that. And then that was about it. And then by the fourth quarter, midway, it was over. So, and by the way, so let me look at that, because if we track Nikola Jokic's points, 7 points in the first, 8 points in the second quarter. That's 15. So he had 8 points in that third quarter when the Suns took over. What else did he have? He played the entire third quarter, and he ended up going 4 for 11, though. So that's the neutralization you're seeing. So it might not be for the entire game across the whole thing, but in the key moments when they're taking control, Jokic wasn't there for them. He ended up going 4 for 11 for the, let's see, what did I say? 8 points in that quarter with only 1 assist and, 3 rebounds. So that's not great, Bob. And that's the whole key here, is you got to be able to do it when the team needs you to do it. And if you're not going to do it, what's the point? Why, what are you doing, if you're not getting it for them when they need it, when they need a run to stop the big run from the other team. So, so that's a good comment, but that's how it looks to me. I would think, thank you, Chris Anthony. I don't even know where I'm rated, but maybe if anybody likes me a whole lot, then yeah, then great. Maybe I'm overrated. I plead guilty. And by the way, who is it? Who are you? Okay, I'm a Jokic hater. I mean, like, listen, go through my timeline or my whatever you want to call it on YouTube and look up Jokic, and you come back with a straight face and tell me without laughing that you think I'm a Jokic hater. I mean, that's the most insane thing I've ever heard anybody say. Of all the things people have said about my work, that's insane. So, all right, let's go to some more of these notes I have from tonight's game. Well, shall we? Okay. And let me just see one thing. I'm just kind of curious. Yeah, it never loaded. Okay. So, Kawhi 0 for 2 with the bad turnover to start. That wasn't great. Although the Clippers still ended up, they had control of that game early anyway. I still don't see the Clippers were not putting Gobert in the pick and roll much in the first quarter at all. I don't think I saw it once. It's weird because what we've seen over the last several years is what's gotten Rudy out of the games is you put him in the pick and roll, make him come out high, he won't, and you get threes or whatever. Now, part of that could very well be because they just don't have that guard that can do that. Now, Reggie has been lighting it up. Last game he had almost 30 points, and then tonight, let's see what Reggie ended up being: 6 for 8, 5 for 6 from 3 for 17. Now, his shot attempts were limited for some reason, and I'll have to go through the footage to kind of pull that apart. But he's not necessarily he's not the Steph, Dame kind of guy, that Harden guy that's going to pull them out like that. Now, we did finally start to see that, but what was interesting was when Favors comes in, they do the Rudy treatment to Favors right away every time, and it really worked. Okay, Favors got like one stop on a mid-range pull-up that was not a pretty good contest, but after that, they probably scored 3 or 4 times within 5 possessions against Favors, and it was very clear that they're saying, we're not going to go at Rudy like that, but we're going to go at Favors like that. And so as a result, Quinn Snyder is going to have to, cut Favors minutes and go. He can go small. He can afford to go small against a lot of these small ball lineups of the Clippers. I'm just going to see Favors only played about 15 minutes. He probably has to cut that at least 5 minutes out. Now, the question then is who goes in for him that could play that? I don't know. That's a good question. And I suppose that it probably gets mitigated if and when Conley ever comes back. Then they can kind of figure out a small ball center. Like they could probably even throw like Niang out there if Zubats is not in there. The thing with Zubats, though, is they don't really post him up. So they might be able to get away with like almost like an Ingles or a Bogdanovich guarding him, honestly. That they might be able to get away with that a little bit in certain stretches and then benefit on the other end. But as a result, because Favors is not really helping them enough in that pick and roll defense. They're doubling. Here, this is what now I remember what was going on in the beginning. So they're doubling Mitchell right away from like one pass away, just doubling him when they can, and usually with Kawhi or with Paul George if Kawhi is on him. And they were just getting wide open threes. They made two of 3 that I shared on Twitter that were like, this is going to be a long game for the Clippers if they're going to continue to do this. And they continue to do it, and it didn't seem to hurt them. It was confounding to me. The Jazz felt like they were prepared for it, and they knew how to attack it, and they were getting good shots out of it. I think when I go through this and pull it really apart, I'm going to discover that there's a crucial section of this game where they weren't hitting. And then by the time the game got to be 14, 15, 18 points, then they started hitting some more, but it was too late. The Clippers had seized control, and they were not going to give it up. That's the only explanation I have. It was a strange kind of thing. Hey, the real Giannis, another super chat. Thank you so much. I'm always going to interrupt when I'm talking about to take a super chat for sure. So, explain why I hate Russ. We'll get to that in a minute. Sorry, coach. My questions are on the Bucks. If you are Giannis's coach, what do you do to improve his shooting? Like you say, his mechanics are poor. Okay. Well, part of the problem he has is the flaring of his elbows out. And then there's a lot of extra movement here where he's kind of scooping and I'm sorry, looking at the thing. He'll scoop underneath, and there's a lot of sort of movement there. There's a head tilt back a lot of the time, although it seemed like he might have fixed that at some point in the middle of the season, but it's still there sometimes. There's a rhythm issue where it's like a four motion shot where it's going like down and up and then back and then over and out, and then so he's not timing the straightening of his legs and his ankles and his hips in when he's releasing the shot with his arm. That's all out of sync, and that might be the easiest thing to fix. And the sad thing is, it would be going back to the way he shot when he got into the league. If you want, look up the video I did on him. I think it was in October of last year. I dissected it. I showed you exactly what was wrong with it and how beautiful it was coming from Europe, which is, where they know how to teach shooting. Europeans teach shooting. That's their thing. Why anybody decided to come in there and say, we're going to rework your shot and fix it. It was just coaching criminality. Should never have happened. And you know what? It's going to hold him back from being, listen, if he was a live TV, sorry. If Giannis was, a good 3-point shooter, then he gets GOAT status, right? Or he gets in the conversation for that. But without that, he's now relegated to being a 90s power forward who, is always going to have this thing about him, not performing in the playoffs. It's sad. It shouldn't happen that way, but that's where he is. And again, he's played for eight years now, right? Or whatever it is. It's, I don't know if he's, if it's going to work. It's not mental as much as it is mechanics. Without question, it's mechanics, and then that which would connect with the mental at some point as well. FC 4642, thank you again so much. What should Bud do with Giannis in the offense? So yeah, I've talked about this a lot. So sorry if you heard this before, but basically it's you need to be able to get him coming off of handoffs. on the left wing so he can turn the corner fast on the catch and get right in there and collapse the defense and finish or kick. Those are things I don't see a lot of. I think he should set a lot of ball screens and roll. Why not? Like, you can get some good vertical lobbing for him as well. That would be a good place. I don't think that the post-ups aren't great, not against Blake. So that's not really that great. Let's see here. What else could he do? And those two things would really help. The ball screens and then coming off of handoffs. The ISOs, I don't like. I mean, listen, the 6 dribbles and then kind of either shoots the 4-motion 3-point shot or the long 2 is just not. It's not what they want to do. It won't help them. So that's the best part that he could do. And then certainly until he can fix his shot. Okay, so let's get back to some more of these notes I have from the game. I guess we'll keep going for there. So the doubling, if you go back and watch, and I'll do the video, I guess, tomorrow morning, check out, the shots they're getting from doubling Mitchell. I didn't think it was going to be a good idea. And by the way, it didn't really work anyway, right? Because the second that they didn't double him, he was just going right to town. And I was really impressed with Mitchell tonight. He was hitting from everywhere. And by the way, because of that probably gives Ty Lue more incentive to say, okay, we have to double him. And so I kind of get it. I just think that in the long run, in a 7-game series, that ain't going to work so well. It just seems like the Jazz were ready, and they were able to generate a lot of open threes off of that. They're going to hit some of those, right? Unless the Jazz are one of those teams where, because the crowd is now back in the stadiums and they're affecting their mental state and they're missing shots. But again, they shot 43% from 3, and I'm going to refresh this to see if I can do this by break this up by segments. Perfect. Okay, so now it's ready. I want to look at the Jazz, their 3-point shooting period by period, because I'm really curious to see. They must have gotten hot in one of these to get it all the way over to 40%. So first quarter, 5 for 12, 41.7%. That's good. Second quarter, the Jazz shot 6 for 11. They went to 54.5%. And in that quarter, they got blitzed. They got outscored by 11. Why? Well, listen, the Clippers hit 7 threes of their own and outscored them by one three, and they shot 50% as well. So that's but that doesn't necessarily explain the 11-point difference. The Clippers didn't turn it over, while the Jazz turned it over 3 times. But again, remember, turnovers are not going to kill you if they don't score right away off of those. Let's see here. Nothing else is jumping out at me. Offensive rebounds, the Clippers got 5, and that's something. So there probably were a couple second chance points in there. Now again, though, aside from the 6 for 11 from 3 in the second quarter that the Jazz hit, in the 2-point range, they ended up going 3 for 10. So there's an example of where they were getting hurt in the closer in shots. Now, they went 5 for 11 in the third quarter. Again, 45.5%, which is terrific. But the Clippers matched them at 4 for 9 right there. And let's see here. And then from inside the 3-point arc, they went 4 for 10. So they really struggled in the second and third quarters. By the fourth quarter, it was over. So it's really interesting. And by the way, that's when they went 3 for 10, the Jazz, in the fourth quarter. So that was the worst quarter they had as far as shooting a 3. So fascinating thing. So we're gonna continue to see the double team, randomly, or not randomly, but out on top on the wing and the top for Donovan Mitchell. And I just, again, I would be surprised if that continues to work over several games. But I will have to plead that I don't know what I'm talking about if that happens. Let's see here. Tone Tran, thank you so much. Thank you from Canada. All right, you hoser. Who you got tomorrow? Nets versus Bucks in the final score. I didn't get a chance to study the Bucks win as closely as I wanted to kind of really figure out what was happening there. Aside from the fact that at the end, Bruce Brown, what you doing, man? So I'm going with the Nets. I think that they're going to win again. I know it's going to be more than 86-83 or whatever that was. So it sounds like you're a betting man, perhaps, and you're trying to do an over/under or something like that. But I don't know. Let's quickly look at what all 3 games are. Let's go to the teams and Bucks, and then series stats. Okay, so game 1 was 115-107. Game 2 was 125-86, and then game 3 86-83. I mean, we hadn't seen 90s playoff go to 86-83. Like that's so low. But maybe that's why I didn't even want to do the breakdown. I was actually busy, and this has been a hectic weekend. But maybe I didn't want to watch so many bricks. So I'm thinking that the final score, I bet you the Nets get 120 and the Bucks will get 110. That's what I'm thinking. Or maybe like goes to overtime. This would probably be a game to go to overtime, actually. But let's say 120, 110. I'm picking the Nets. Why not? How's that for a hot take? Okay. Let me get a couple more good notes here from the game just so we can kind of wrap up, sealing our practice. But I'm loving all the great questions. Thank you guys so much. And hey, huge crowd here. Awesome to see everybody here. Let's see here. Harmon, we all know why. I don't hate Russ. I just, the game drives coaches crazy, right? Almost every coach I know gets driven crazy watching him play. Colin Anthony, thank you. How does Giannis overcome being used like a role player power forward from the 90s on offense? Is it all down to the jumper? Yeah, I mean, seriously, look at the way Blake is guarding him. And not only that, I had a nice juicy clip of Blake so far off him that when they tried to lob it into Brook Lopez down low on a big mismatch, Blake knocked it away. Even though Giannis was 25 feet away from the play, he was so sunk down so low, he's getting in the way of the other parts of the offense. And that's what's gumming up the works. So how does he overcome that? It really ends up being down the jumper, right? The jumper is and the threat of the jumper is what brings the defense out to guard you. And when he won't even shoot the 16-footer, right? Right at the free throw line or behind the free throw line. It's crazy. You got to be able to catch it and shoot it there. I know the analytics only wants threes and at the basket, but if you're open on a free throw line jumper, you need to take that. And they know he's not. They know he's going to put the ball on the ground. He's going to do a spin move. They're going to jump him on the spin and cause turnovers and havoc. He also, I've said this before, so again, I apologize if you heard it, but to me, the way he trains, the way he must train, based on what I see in the games, he must train his moves without defense because he doesn't seem to have the visual recognition of the defenders in the game when they actually have something to say about these moves. So he'll crash into them. I'm worried he's going to hurt somebody, actually, because sometimes he just goes right through the guy as if he's not there. He's there. He has his position. He's allowed to have it. If he gets an elbow up a little too high and it goes right into someone's face, I'm worried because he gets going really fast. That would really cause some damage. So I think that would also help. A more variety of moves would help him, especially because he's in the half court. He can't just euro from 19 feet away and lay it in. And remember, in the playoffs, we ended up seeing a lot less, or not a lot less, but we see less fast breaking, so he'll get less opportunities like that. So then he becomes a little bit less effective. Now, in that series right now, overall, he is averaging, he's averaging 28 points. He's shooting 54% from the field. He's only shooting 18.8% from three, but he's only taken he's taken 16. And in the 3 games, so he's taking a little over 5 a game, and he's only shooting 18%. So that's not good. He probably should eliminate those, right? I get it, and if he makes those, they probably win if he makes a decent percentage of those, because that then will probably bring him out, although he'd have to make a bunch, I think, to really get Blake to come out. So I don't know. His numbers are fine. It's like, can he get any better than 28, 12, and 3? I mean, Middleton was really struggling, but he's had moments where he kind of got back into it, and he certainly, scored a lot in the last game, almost half their points. Drew Holiday's 13 points a game. They probably need a lot more from him. They probably need him closer to 18, 19 points, and probably more assists, even though he doesn't really get to be on the ball that much. So they're not getting a lot of production from anybody else, and that's also the big thing is, the offense is interesting because Chris Middleton ends up being the guy who's the main pick-and-roll ball handler, and he's decent at it. But in the playoffs, when you need better than that. You need better than Middleton. And even though again Middleton's good, you need better. You need like the Trae Youngs. You need the Luka. You need even like the Kawhis. That's what you need in a pick-and-roll. Middleton's a tier below that, and that's a big issue. And certainly Giannis is not going to be that guy. They decided that. That's how it's going to be. Even though, Giannis could probably stand it, maybe have a couple more. But what happens when he runs pick and roll, they just sag way underneath, and they can contain the whole thing. And the only thing he might get is a 3-point shot. Okay, more quick notes. Let's see before I get off the target here. Okay, but it took midway through the second quarter do I finally notice that Kawhi targeted Rudy in the pick and roll. And by the way, that was working. So it was like, why are you doing it against Favors only and not really against Rudy? Because Rudy has moments where like they'll get near the basket and they won't even try and shoot it, right? Which is like the whole thing about Rudy that like it's hard to see in the box score.
That said, there were enough plays that they were able to score at the rim on Rudy that, I don't know, it leaves me scratching my head a little bit because I know, listen, that's going to happen to anybody who wants to challenge a lot of shots. You're going to get scored on, you're going to block some shots, you're going to scare some people away from shooting. But sometimes there's enough of those moments where it just makes me wonder, if he's really the defensive player of the year, I shouldn't see that many of those. I'm going to go through the tape again to make sure that that my feeling watching those is justified. It's not just like a 3 or 4. If it gets into like 6, 7, 8 of those, then it's like, I don't know. There's something weird about that. But at the very least, if you put Rudy in the pick and roll, you might have a chance to get some fouls on him and get him out of there. And the Clippers aren't doing that. But at some point when they took a 13, 14, 15-point lead, there wasn't as much of a reason anymore to do that, right? So that was probably what was going on there. And Paul George got hot. Let me look at his overall numbers here. The overall numbers for Paul George were good. Let me see here. 12 for 24, 6 for 10 from 3 for 31 points and 5 assists. He was good. He got hot in that second quarter, and some of those you just tip your cap, like that right corner 3 was great. But really, again, to compare the shot quality of the Clippers versus the Jazz, I mean, the Jazz got, I think, better quality shots. They just didn't hit as many. Let's see here. Let me get back to make sure I get my eyes on all the questions. All right, how are we all doing? Unfortunately, I really wish I could have gotten Hot Mike on here. I'd love to have you guys come in and actually speak and ask questions. Well, Kevin Williams, thank you so much for the super chat, but the message got retracted, so I don't know what happened there. But maybe if you throw it over in the comments, I'll pick it up before it scrolls by too fast. Bernard Kramer, thank you so much from, I don't know what that symbol is. I think I'm the ugly American who doesn't know all the other symbols for the currency. But wonder what that is. Do you think we will see more Terrence Mann and Luke Kennard and less Morris going forward in the series? Without question. So listen, Luke Kennard, whatever they were saying about his defense, I know he got isolated against in the Mavericks series, but part of it could have just been like he had been cold and hadn't played and whatever. He's much better now, and he's stroking it, and he's doing what I said. Go back and watch my Luke Kennard video from before the season started when they got him. And I showed how he's got to stop doing the pick and roll ball handler stuff and just be the spot-up shooter that he's so great at. And he was, he's been, he's playing. He got 17 minutes, 2 for 4 from 3. He got an assist and a couple of rebounds. So he was great. I think that 17 minutes is probably pretty good for him, maybe 19-ish. Terrence Mann got 22 minutes. I thought he was good. He's got that energy thing. I don't think, he gets any more than that. I think maybe he gets 19 to 20. I think that he might have gotten a couple minutes too much, but again, he that energy he provides, and he's also aggressive off the dribble is good. So they're going to need him for sure to continue to play. Now, Morris was 3 for 5 for 6 points, but he's never quite fit with me. I feel like when they picked him up, I was worried like that might be the pickup that on paper they think is really solidifying things, but in reality isn't sort of being the right fit for them. Batum I think fits better for them too, but if they don't start Morris, then it's like, who are you going to start? So they got to kind of have him there. And he plays the 21 minutes, so that's about right. I think they got him pegged pretty well. So, I mean, obviously the way everything went out today, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't think that Lou would touch much from that. They didn't start Zubats tonight, even though they had started them in the game before. So, hey, I guess that works. So the one thing that Lou is doing nicely in the playoffs so far this year is the personnel, managing the starting units and changing it up when it's not working. So that you got to give a lot of kudos to him. Benjamin, oh my goodness, thank you so much. But I don't know what SGD is. Southern Great. What is SGD? Anyway, thank you so much for the super chat. Coach, can you talk about what kind of lineups and situations where Ty Lue should look into playing Boogie? Oh, I thought Boogie did very nicely against what's his face, Gobert. So I think that they should be able to find 3 minutes in each half where they can throw Boogie out there against Gobert and see what happens for sure. I don't know if it'll work if they go small. But you know what? If Favors is in there, I would think that Boogie would be able to do nicely against Favors too. So without question, they should find some minutes for him. It was going so well, I suppose they just sort of felt like there wasn't a reason to put him in. Rondo was an interesting thing. They just completely went cold turkey against him, unless he's injured, but I don't think he is. I don't know what's happening there, but that's weird. It's a little bit weird to me. I guess Patrick Beverley had that turn on the bench and not getting off the bench at all in the Dallas series the last few games, and so maybe they're like, well, we're going to replace that Rondo numbers with Beverley. Now that said, it wasn't working that well the last game or two with Rondo, so I suppose that again, that's the thing that Lou is doing nicely is he's cutting bait, and not going too much longer with that. Oh, the Singapore dollar. That's what SGD is. Okay, well, thank you so much for that and the heads up on that. But what was the other one before that that Bernard did? That E, is that a euro? It's probably a euro, right? Anybody? And Trace, my pleasure. Listen, I love the live shows. I'm gonna make sure I do at least one a week, if not more. And we'll get the Hot Mic going so that you can always download the Hot Mic app. Because by the way, I use it for in-game shows as well, where I do commentary the whole game, which is really fun. But then if I do it for these in the post game, you can come on. You can call in and be part of the show and ask questions, which if you follow my locker room show, I do that tomorrow. I'll have one, and then I have one on Wednesdays. You got to check that out too, because it's an awesome time where people come in and we talk all together in a big group and really kind of get to the bottom of some things. It's an awesome conversation. Let's see here. Nick, let's ask Nick's a question. Do you think that Hawks won because of hot three-point shooting? Also, I forgot what happened to Danny Green. So I wasted 3 or 4 hours this morning that I had to do a video. I had to run, but I tried to get a video done this morning. What did I do? I charted every pick and roll that Trae Young was involved in for the 3 games, and it was promising to begin with because in game 1, let me see if I can find my numbers here. I thought I tweeted some of them out, but let me get the spreadsheet out because it's actually some interesting numbers that are worth going through. Let me figure this out here. Where is that? All right, hang on for 1 second. Where are the Trae Young charts? Here it is. Okay. I almost wish I could kind of like share this, but it's kind of a messy spreadsheet. But basically, what I found out was in game 1, the points per possession on the pick and roll with Trae Young involved was 1.275. And that's where you see a lot of those floaters he was making, and they shot well from 3. And so that was really what really hurt them. 51 total points out of that. And that was with the main guy being Green starting out on him. But remember, if you start out on a guy in the ball handler and you get a ball screen on you, you like end up becoming less involved in the play. But it's usually was Green and Embiid was the main culprit, and that was 1.15 points per possession, which is really a robust, healthy efficiency in the pick and roll. That was 23 points in 20 possessions of Green guarding him and Embiid guarding the ball handler. Okay. Now, go to game 2, and this is what was promising was all of a sudden it went down to 0.91 points per possession. They really were able to defend the pick and roll a lot better with Trae Young handling the ball, and mostly was because of Thibault. Thibault on the ball was 18 possessions and only 14 points for 0.77 points per possession. It's really, really low. It's really, really good. Simmons on him did really well as well. He was actually even better at 0.6. But there was only 10 possessions of that when Simmons was on Trae with either like Embiid playing the ball screener's man. So all of a sudden I had a little narrative here, right? Look at this. They switched up who was guarding him, and it really shut down the pick and roll. Well, and as a result, they went on to win easily in game 2. In game 3, they went ahead and ended up the Hawks got 1.25 points per possession for those Trae pick and rolls, which is even better than or almost as good as game 1. And yet they got hammered anyway. So, and that was, by the way, with Simmons. Now, Thibault went away, wasn't guarding him as much, and Simmons was the guy guarding him a lot more in the pick and rolls. In fact, Simmons-Embiid pairing with 16 possessions, and they got 20 points. And again, 1.25 points per possession. And then with Simmons and everybody else, or just Simmons and anybody else guarding the ball screener's man, it was 1.2, basically the same. So, it was really just astounding to me. And so at that point, I kind of had to give up because I was like, 2 hours into just studying all these pick and rolls. And, what was it then? It wasn't the pick and roll. Then, what was going wrong? I suppose the three-point shooting kind of dropped off for the Hawks, and I got to start pulling apart, even more stats to look at what's going on. But there are some interesting stats you will not see anywhere else. That was some special, B-ball breakdown, ways I look at the game. So if you've always been looking at the way, let's see here.
if you look at the way I study the game, that's how I pull this stuff apart. And I really try and figure out what the through line is so I can mix my eyeballs and the stats together. And if it doesn't work, then sometimes I have to kind of chalk it up and be like, just basically, give up and say, well, I can't get a video done today. Because remember, I have to like the video. I have to, I have to be into it. It has to like make sense to me or else I don't want to do it. Okay, William Chan, thank you so much from Canada. Am I crazy to think the Suns can win it this year? Well, you're not crazy to think that they can get to the finals, and I think that they really, really can. And in fact, they match up well in theory with the Nets, right? You can throw Bridges on KD. I kind of like that. Bridges is super long and is a really good defender, so that would be fun to see. You could throw CP3 on Kyrie. That's a good defensive matchup where they can handle that a little bit. And then, with Harden, guess what? Then you get Booker. Now, Booker is slowly convincing me that he's the real deal. I haven't been convinced for a long time with him. And I think I'm starting to believe that now he can lead that team deep into the playoffs and be efficient and all those things. But that means Booker would have to guard Harden if Harden is healthy. And I would imagine by then he would be if they can get there, yada, yada. So, so I don't think it's completely crazy to think the Suns could maybe beat them. But I don't know. I don't think anyone does. But then again, it was like the Bucks seemed to be on paper a really good matchup as well for the Nets, where they could have Drew and Middleton and Giannis guarding KD and those guys. But it hasn't really played out that much. Game 3 it might be an anomaly. We got to find out. I'm thinking that it was. And if it gets back to being a normal game and they actually don't let Bruce Brown shoot the game-winning shot, then the Nets might have something there. And so my thoughts, I think somebody asked me about that were at the end. I did watch those couple plays, and it was just it was a SHIT show. And Nets need to be better. They need to actually execute the sideline on a bounce play a lot better. Like that was a big problem too. So those are the kind of growing pains you would see in the regular season when you have all these new guys playing and they're shuttling in and out of the lineups, and you're getting guys in midseason trades. So I guess it snuck through. They didn't quite get through that in the regular season, and then they could clean it up. So we'll have to see if Nash can clean that stuff up now. I believe they would be able to do that, and that won't happen again. So, the hot mic has left me just sort of spinning and spinning, where hopefully they'll get it fixed for tomorrow. Oh, in fact, here comes Sean right now. Yeah. I'm going to tell him it's just spinning wheel when I hit create event. Anyway, because I guess we could always flip over to hot mic if they get it working, but we're already so deep into this thing, having a good time anyway. Okay. So overall, let me see if there's any other good notes I can kind of pull from here. Rudy, and by the way, I lost a lot of Jazz fans over the years because I would criticize Rudy's hands. And, listen, fans are fans, and I get it. They don't want to have to point out, like, deficiencies in their favorite players. So, and listen, Gobert's hands have gotten better. He has improved with it. But tonight wasn't one of those nights where, the balls were just bouncing off of him like they were pieces of wood. And those are all those moments, too, where it's like they're not getting what they need out of him. I'm kind of curious. Did he score? Let's see here. Rudy for the game ended up, 12 points, 10 rebounds, 4 for 7. So, he did fine. He did within the range of what he would normally do. I just felt like there were some moments where he couldn't corral that ball well enough that would have helped them big time, and they would have needed every one of those plays just to kind of, stay even with the Clippers and their shooting. So, that's that. Anything else here? So, there was some lobs, some loose balls, rebounds. He just wasn't grabbing them well. The turnovers killed the Jazz in the third quarter. That's what I wrote as a note. But is that right? Let's look at that real quick. I think I already went through that. But in the third quarter, turnovers, the Jazz only had 2, and the Clippers had 4. See, it's funny because I guess those 2 alone killed them, and they were kind of crucial. And they were runouts, and I think they probably scored on them. And that hurt them because, in theory, they cut down on those 2. Let's just say they were 4 points more, then perhaps the Jazz outscored the Clippers by 8 points instead of 4, and then maybe heading into the fourth quarter, the lead is they have a chance to maybe close it a little bit more and get some momentum or something. But
either way, it was also good to see, like, there are moments you could see that Kawhi just says, I'm going to turn it up on defense, and I'm going to start making plays. And that's tough. That's when he starts doing that. He's getting steals. He's getting runouts. It's crazy. So, buzzer beater, thank you. But except for this is one of those questions, it's really, really hard. What basketball books, videos are in your library? Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say, what do I recommend? And it's like, I've been meaning to for so long put together the definitive book. And gosh, I almost feel like I haven't even really read. I mean, we're talking about coaching books. We're talking about basketball books. Ben Golliver's new book about being in the bubble and all about the bubble and covering it is really, really good. In fact, I need to get him on the show to talk about it. And that's a really good book. Bubble Ball, I think it's what it's called. So I'm in the middle of that one. That's good. And then let's see here. What else? As far as coaching stuff goes, you know what? I feel like because modern basketball, maybe I need to write the book. Modern basketball has changed so much in the last 10 years. I haven't seen one that's really discussed, the things that I think are most important about the way you should play and way you should coach in terms of, attacking on the catch, no more triple threat, the 3-point shot itself. I don't know. Would you guys buy a book if I wrote it? What do you think? Could I sell 10,000 copies of a book? I don't know. Is that the threshold to get a publisher, or do I do it myself? Here's the thing I'm thinking is, wouldn't it be better if it's just a video, right? That's the weird thing about coaching books in general for me is that it's just I like to see it, and I like to see more interactiveness of it, like more of like a website versus just like a book where you're reading it. Perhaps it would be like if it's a website, then you can have PDFs you can print out, and then you can have that part as well. But okay, so interesting. So we're doing a little bit of a market research here. So Allah thinks yes, it would sell. And let's see, Giannis needs to just play more like an Orlando era Shaq. I mean, Giannis, yeah, I guess, but will they let Giannis do that? Orlando era, right? Because with the Lakers, Shaq was just battering people, and they would probably end up calling a lot more charges now than they did even then. But yeah, I mean, Shaq back then, I mean, yeah, that's probably not a bad comp. But then again, Giannis just doesn't really have that post game. He needs to just improve his game. But again, what does that mean? If he improves, he goes from 28 points a game to 30 points a game. That's what's so confounding to me. It's hard to understand. But then again, we're talking about the playoffs, right? The regular season is the regular season. The playoffs are a different animal. And with the player specifically like Giannis, he can get those numbers, but they're not as impactful as they need to be. And as a result, his teams lose. It's a hard argument to try and say because, what do you want me to tell you? Like, when a guy comes back at me and says, listen, he had 30 points. What else do you want from him? I'm like, you're right, he did. But it's not enough. Let's see here. Imagine having to teach your center to shoot mid because your guard refused to Sixers. Okay, I don't know what that means. Let's see here. Pandemic P injured Mitchell. Oh, that Mitchell injury was very strange. It's not. I don't think it could possibly be an ankle. And was there any other update while I'm on? I didn't see anything. Somebody tell me if they saw an update. Let me on Twitter, because he didn't twist it. He didn't land funny on it. That's what made me a little bit concerned. Like, is it like a metacarpal bone? Like which that gets to be really concerning because those things, you're not playing again. And I imagine they're going to do some sort of an MRI on it for precautionary reasons, so we'll find out. But I'll just tell you this: if Mitchell is hurt, then that is it. The series is over before it begins. It is over in however many games the Clippers need. 6 games then. And that would just be devastating because I've always enjoyed Mitchell. I've always been trying to tell everybody he is the man. That's kind of like why I don't mind Conley not being in there. I like Mitchell running that kind of point guard thing and being aggressive as a main ball handler. I really think that's his best position. And tonight was really the key. I mean, displayed that to no end, and he was so good. I mean, look at him for the whole game. Let's go through his numbers. I think did I already do that? 11 for 24. So he forced a couple shots in there, but 5 for 9 from 3 and 4 assists, 30 points. I thought he was terrific, and he made so many tough shots. But again, that was another one of those empty things too, where he needs to be better as well. But nothing probably would have stopped. The Clippers hammered them. I don't know. It's confounding. The 3-point thing. I like it when you see a team blow somebody out and they score 6 more threes than the other team. And like this makes it easy. This is more confusing to me. So, let's see. Any other books in my library, my videos? I mean, there's a Tex Winter, the Triangle Offense book that's is really good. I always like to reference that because there's still so many good things in there, even though the offense isn't being run anymore, and I probably wouldn't run it that way anymore either. I used to. Let's see. There's that, and then any other basketball books. One of my favorite basketball books is The Breaks of the Game. It's old. It's from the Portland Trailblazers championship season and one season beyond that. But it's by a guy named David Halberstam, who is one of the finest writers of all time, and he writes on sports. He's the finest writers of any genre, but his sports stuff is just terrific. But by the way, if you get Blinkist, download that. It's my new one of my new sponsors, or my old sponsor and new sponsor, and you can get condensed versions of books, and they do have a number of basketball books on there, so check it out. And I believe, oh geez, Louise, what's my code for Blinkist? You think I'd be better at being prepared to do my shout outs for all my ads. By the way, there's a ton coming up, and a lot of them should be really fun. So stay tuned for that as I load. I will tell you the Blinkist code. Well, it's not even loading my oh, here it is. Blinkist. Didn't I? I guess I haven't released it yet. Uh-oh. It's coming up. Anyway, I think it's like B-Ball. But anyway, be on the lookout for that. Let's see here. Well, I tell you what, we're getting a little bit long in the tooth here. We're getting close to an hour, which I feel pretty good about. And it's late for the people on the East Coast, but still. Let's see here. Anything else I want to grab from any of these things? Super Chats? Or a regular chat. Let's see. Coach, what are your thoughts on Nash as a coach? He looks pretty raw, right? Of course, having that big 3 lineup helps you fill those holes for sure. Yeah, I mean, he's also got D'Antoni with him, so he's got a good staff. He's got, I think, Jacques Vaughn is on that staff as well. So he's got a lot of support, and I think he's doing nicely. I mean, there's not a lot you have to do, right? When you have Durant who can just do whatever he needs to do to score. Defensively they're not good, and they've been better though, and they've been able to figure out a couple more lineups where they can get more defense on the floor and cause some problems. So I think he's doing nicely, and I think he'll end up having a ring. He'll get the ring he never got as a player. Can the Sixers perimeter defense do better than the Bucks versus Nets in the next round? Well, Danny Green is not it, so he's not there anymore. Thibault, I think, is fantastic. I think he's the best defensive player on that team. And then you got Ben Simmons. Yeah, I think that they could can they do better than the Bucks? I don't know, because the Bucks on paper have that ability to be better than they are. But geez, the Sixers better than the Bucks? I don't know. It's probably close. Thibault, Simmons, and then Green. Who else we're going to talk about? We'll throw in there. What's his face? The guy that went off on that game. We got Maxey, and you got. Oh my goodness gracious! Who's the other guy that hit all the threes in Game 2? My mind is now mush. It's late, and somebody tell me. I'm not going to look it up. I'll let somebody tell me in the thing. Oh, God. He had like 17 points off the bench and hit like 5 threes. No one's going to tell me? Shake Milton, thank you very much. You win. Owen, you win. And Kevin and Michael and Steven, thank you so much. Shake Milton, I don't think, does he rate better defensively than, the guys in the Bucks? Probably not. But, and Harris, Harris is okay. He's not great defensively. And there are times, by the way, when I even like what Embiid does in the pick and roll defense, when he'll come up and he'll actually be effective, like being active, but he doesn't do it that often. And I can't even blame him because he's got like torn meniscus in his knee. So the severity of Harden's injury, I don't know is exactly that clear. It's definitely a hamstring issue, and you have to be very careful with those because they come back to bite you. At any moment, and there's not a lot you can kind of do to prevent that, short of just not play so hard, and that might be what they tell him to do. Don't do all those sudden stops and put so much pressure on that hammy. Jumping puts pressure on the hammy. It's a tough game. That's what happened when he did it. He was I think doing a Euro-ish 1-2 and then jumped, and that was it. Let's see here. All right, well, I think we're about ready to wrap it up. Anybody have one last comment they want to throw out here before we go? No pressure. Okay, Chris, I'll give you a little thank you for telling me that my background music is the best of all times. That will get you, I guess, a little notice versus all the other comments you were making. Let's see here. Where should Lowry go this offseason? Should he stay in the Raptors? No problem. Gosh, Lowry can help, but he's not unrestricted, is he? Because I feel like DeMar DeRozan's the guy who's the top of the unrestricted free agent list. But I'll just quickly look at that while we're looking before anybody else answers. Kyle Lowry, scroll down here. Contract. 2021. Yeah, I guess he is a free agent. Oh, so he is a free agent. Okay. So, any of the playoff teams will be good for him, and he'll come off the bench, right? And spot starter. That's probably where he'd go the best. And so that's, would he help the Bucks? Like, yeah, maybe the Bucks could be good for them. Even like the Clippers could be really good. The Clippers could use a guard like that. A little bit more ball dominant guard that can run the pick and roll and shoot some threes. I think that might actually be interesting to me. Can we do more hot mic stuff? I mean, listen, if the hot mic can ever get going, yes, I'll do that. I'll do it that way every time so I can bring you guys on because I definitely don't want to talk for an hour straight. How would you fix Giannis and Ben's free throw shooting? Well, that would be a whole hour worth of talking, but basically, I would have them start with the ball lower by their waist. So you don't want to have like two different versions of a rhythm for a jump shot and a free throw. Why have to master two different things? So one way I would do it is have the ball start lower, and then I'd have them start bending their knees before the arms swing up. If I get just that would solve a lot of issues for both of them. I think Ben needs to turn more to his right to get better alignment. I think he's close to 10 toes to the rim. I got to check that again. But in my mind's eye, I'm picturing that, and that's a big problem too. Adam Dwyer, no problem. Thank you for coming on. And again, that was a really great time when we did that. So I promise we'll fix the whatever we're gonna do. We'll fix the hot mic thing, and we'll get back to doing those because again, there's no other way that bring people on live to a YouTube show. Hot mic lets you do it, and it usually works flawlessly. So we'll get that going, and then stay tuned because then when you follow me there, you'll know when I do other in-game shows there that will sync you up to the game with me, so we can talk about the game together. So anyhow. All right, I'm going to wrap this up. Awesome stuff. Thank you guys for being part of this. This was an awesome discussion. Really, really enjoyed it. And stay tuned and keep your eyes open and get the notification squad going because you never know when I'm going to go live and do a post-game show when it grabs me. But be warned that I'll do these at least once a week. I really enjoy doing them. So thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, sports fans, at B-Ball Breakdown, we're not a channel. We're a conversation. You in?